Welcome to your Housing Assistance Orientation video. Please watch this entire video. If you need help understanding this video, or if you need it in a different format, please let us know. Our phone number is 360-423-0140. We encourage you to take notes or write down any questions you have. In today's orientation, we'll talk about the following topics: how the Housing Choice Voucher Program works, where you can lease a unit, what we're looking for when we inspect a unit, and some tools you can use to find a unit. You'll live where you want to live. HUD created the Housing Choice Voucher Program so you can be the one to select housing that meets your needs. And we'll discuss how to transfer your voucher to another jurisdiction, which is called portability. Your briefing packet contains some important information. Please pay close attention to these pages of your briefing packet. The briefing packet signature page, you'll sign it after you're done watching this video. Your housing voucher, this shows when your voucher was issued, when it expires, and if it has been extended, the extension's expiration date. Your rent calculation worksheet, also referred to as rent limits or shopping limits. This worksheet shows you the maximum amount of rent a landlord can charge for you to qualify for that unit. It also shows an estimate of how much you will be responsible for paying your landlord each month, and how much we will pay to your landlord. Throughout the briefing packet, you'll find a lot of information about our rules and procedures, such as our guest policy, our hearing request policy, and our voucher extension request policy. We included information about federal, state, and local equal opportunity laws, protection from discrimination, and your rights as a tenant in Washington State. We included a list of some local landlords to help you find a unit, but please feel free to also use other search tools when looking for a unit. Please read through the brochures about protecting your family from lead in the home and the Good Place to Live brochure to help your search. We included some community resource guides, and we'll list more contact information for resources at the end of this video. A copy of your tenancy addendum is enclosed too. It lists very important program rules and regulations. And we included information on exercising portability, or transferring your housing voucher. We'll show you more about portability in just a few minutes.
We are a local public housing authority, often referred to as a PHA. We are not Housing and Urban Development, HUD. HUD is who provides us the funding to do rental assistance. HUD runs programs that reduce homelessness and diminish housing discrimination. Our jurisdiction covers the following counties: Lewis, Wahkiakum, Pacific, and Cowlitz, with the exception of the City of Kelso and the City of Kalama, which have their own housing authority. How the Housing Choice Voucher Program works. The Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 introduced Section 8, which we refer to as the Housing Choice Voucher. The Housing Choice Voucher Program was created to allow families to find safe, decent, and affordable housing, and also to reduce the amount the family pays towards their housing. Now, during the eligibility process, we will gather information on your household size and income. This will help determine your voucher size and your rent limits. The rent limits will be provided to you after you contact your housing specialist. The rent limits will provide you with a breakdown of your portion of rent and the portion that HOSWA will pay to the landlord. Our responsibilities is to make sure that you are eligible for the program. We have accomplished this by having you complete the eligibility packet and that you provided us the documentation that we were requiring. To issue you a voucher, you will need to complete this video and speak to your housing specialist. At that time, they will provide you a copy of your voucher and your rent limits. Housing quality standards refers to the minimum criteria that the unit must meet during inspections for assistance to be paid. This will include items such as inspecting to ensure doors and windows close, that there is running water, and that the appliances are functional. There is more to the minimum criteria, but because this is to ensure that the unit is safe, decent, and affordable, we ask that you perform a walkthrough of the unit, as there may be items that will be considered cosmetic and still pass. We also will be responsible with providing the landlord with a subsidy payment, which will be the amount of your rent minus your portion. The program rules are to be enforced by the housing authority. This includes having the tenant report all changes in writing, ensuring that if there is necessary repairs, that the repairs are to be completed by the landlord.
You have important responsibilities you must uphold in order to participate on our program. You must abide by the terms of your lease, follow the rules of your housing voucher, do your part to keep the unit safe and sanitary, cooperate reasonably with the owner, and cooperate with the housing authority. This means read any letters the housing authority sends you, respond to requests for information in a timely manner, provide any necessary documentation to the best of your ability. Most importantly, report all changes to your household's income or family composition in writing within 10 days of the change. You need to tell us in writing if any household member's income goes up or down, changes employers or benefit types, or if someone moves in or out. You can notify us by sending a letter, an email, a fax, or bring a note to the office. Remember, telling us verbally is not enough to report a change. It must be in writing every time. Also remember, you are responsible for making sure that all income and assets from all other household members are fully declared. If you get income from another agency, like DSHS or Social Security, they will not contact us to tell us about your income changes. You are responsible for reporting.
Your landlord is also provided with a list of responsibilities they must follow. They must comply with state landlord and tenant laws and all state and federal fair housing laws. They must comply with the terms of the lease. In order for the housing authority to pay rent assistance, the rental unit you've selected must meet housing quality standards both at the initial inspection and every annual inspection thereafter. The landlord must cooperate with tenant requests for maintenance or repairs. And the landlord must also cooperate with the housing authority to make repairs or provide documentation when deficiencies are identified during any inspection.
Your housing specialist would go over your calculation worksheet with you. The calculation worksheet provides you with what your expected rent can be. It goes over your portion of the rent and the amount of assistance that HOSWA makes to the landlord. Two things are taken into consideration when looking at your rent limits. The first is your income. HOSWA must use your household's gross income to calculate your assistance. Second is your voucher size. To calculate your voucher size, we will look at the number of people in your household, relationship of members in your household, such as spouse, parent, child, gender of members in the household, members of the same gender will be given 1 bedroom, age of members in the household, up until the age of 5, children of opposite genders will be given 1 bedroom. The payment standard is the maximum monthly assistance payment for a family assisted in the voucher program before deducting the total tenant payment by the family. Your payment standard will be the lesser of the voucher size or bedroom size. For example, if you choose a 4-bedroom unit, but your voucher has a unit size of 3, then you would receive the payment standard amount for 3 bedrooms instead of 4. If you choose a 2-bedroom unit, but your voucher has a unit size of 3, then you would receive the payment standards for 2 bedrooms instead of 3. Your Section 8 voucher will be issued for 120 calendar days. You must submit a request for tenancy approval and a proposed lease within the 120-day period unless an extension is granted. Our policy states, under normal circumstances, hospital will authorize extensions past 120 days. All extensions are to be requested in writing. In your briefing, there will be a form titled Voucher Search Log. Please fill out this form with the units you have looked at. This can be information on your contacting the landlord, doing a walkthrough, and checking property management websites for vacancies. Extensions cannot exceed 180 days or 6 months without an approved reasonable accommodation.
Once the family has been issued a voucher, it's time to find an eligible unit. The unit must be located within the Housing Authority's jurisdiction, which is Pacific, Cowlitz, Lewis, and Wahkiakum County. There is the exception of any Kelso or Kalama zip code. Those cities fall under the jurisdiction of the Kelso Housing Authority. The family must not own or have an interest in the unit, meaning you may not rent from a family member where you may inherit the unit, and it cannot be under a rent-to-own program. Also, the landlord must be willing to participate in the Housing Choice Voucher program. There will be some extra paperwork and an inspection that will have to be conducted. The unit must fall within the family's rent limit. These are unique to every family, and your housing specialist will cover the money part of this at the end of this presentation. You must also make sure that the unit meets our rent reasonableness test. We'll cover that in another slide. We'll also go into more detail about the HQS inspection process. Rent reasonableness. We must make sure the unit passes a rent reasonable test before we can enter into a contract. The reason we do this is to ensure that our families are not paying a higher amount of rent than other similar units where the families don't have housing assistance. For example, if a family is renting a 2-bedroom apartment, we look for other 2-bedroom apartments in that area, and we will make sure that if our family pays $600 a month for rent for that apartment, that there are not other families that only have to pay $400. We want to make sure that we do not artificially inflate the rent amounts. In your briefing packet, we have provided a list of landlords that work with our program. They are divided into categories by area that we cover. Also, please utilize every resource you have available, the internet, drive around to different neighborhoods, and also by word of mouth to find a rental unit that's suitable for you. Also, don't forget to make sure that the unit is within your rent limits and to look at it and make sure that it will pass the HQS standards. The inspection process is where we are looking to make sure that the unit is decent, safe, and sanitary. In your briefing packet, we give you a brief overview of the inspection process in the pamphlet called A Good Place to Live. We also provide information about lead-based paint. When our inspector goes to the unit, we will go in and make sure that the appliances are working properly. We'll make sure that there's running water, flushing toilets. We will check the pipes underneath the sinks to make sure that it is free of leaks. We will make sure that the unit is free from any tripping hazards or cutting hazards on the windows. We will also make sure that the unit is secure, that your front door locks, your back door locks. We, however, are not going to be looking at cleanliness or if the unit meets your specific family needs. We strongly encourage you to do a walkthrough and make sure that the size of the unit, the location of the unit, and everything else in that unit meets your family's needs. Each family has their own criteria of what they will be looking for when they are searching for their housing. When the inspector goes in and they inspect the unit, if they find any items that do not pass the minimum HQS standards, they will communicate that with the owner. If the owner chooses not to do repairs at that time, then the unit will be considered ineligible and our family will have to begin a search on a new unit. If the house was built prior to 1978, there is a possibility that there's lead in the paint. So as the family is walking through the unit and trying to select the proper unit, if there is a female that is pregnant or a child under 6 in the household, the family should make sure that the paint is free of any cracking, peeling, chipping, or flaking. If this is the case, that will not pass inspection.
The request for tenancy approval is a packet that is completed by both the tenant and the landlord. This document provides us with the necessary information to schedule the initial inspection. What we look for on here is who is responsible for paying for the utilities and when the unit is first available for inspection. Your RFTA must be submitted within the first 120 days of your voucher issue date, and only one RFTA can be submitted by the tenant at a time. This allows us to complete the process of inspection for each family.
Every year, we will conduct an annual re-examination of your family's circumstances. We will review and re-verify your household income, assets, deductions, and family composition at least once a year. We must do this yearly, even if your circumstances haven't changed. It's very important to open any letters you receive from us, and always do your best to read all the instructions. Pay careful attention to the deadline on your letter. You need to complete your annual review paperwork on time to continue receiving housing assistance. If you need help with your paperwork, or if you have questions about which documents you need to submit, please contact us before your deadline. After you turn in your paperwork, we will let you know if we need more information. Once your annual review is done, we will send you a letter that tells you what your new portion of the rent will be. We will recalculate your portion of the rent at least once per year based on your household's updated information. Remember, if your income or household size changes in between annual reviews, you still need to report those changes right away. Don't wait for your annual re-examination to report those changes.
Toward the end of the 1-year lease term, the Housing Authority will contact the family by mail and notify them that they are going to have an annual inspection. We try to give about 2 weeks' notice. We will come in and we will make sure that all the appliances are working properly and that the unit meets all the same HQS standards that were there when the family moved in. It's going to be your responsibility to report any household changes in writing to the Housing Authority. You can email, fax, or write us a note and drop it by our office at any time. If your income decreases, we must have all changes into the office, all verifications done, and the paperwork completed no later than the 22nd of the month in order to decrease your portion of the rent by the following month. Any increase in your income will not go into effect without 30 days' notice. Any changes in household composition will be completed when we get the correct documentation in. Your housing specialist will notify you of what they need at that time.
Portability is the name of the process in which your family can transfer or port your rental assistance when you move to a location outside the jurisdiction of Housing Opportunities of Southwest Washington. New families must live in our jurisdiction for 1 year before they may port. Exceptions are if at the time you applied for rental assistance, your address was within our jurisdiction or through a reasonable accommodation to accommodate a disabled person. Other factors considered are if you owe the housing authority money. In most cases, if you do, you will not be allowed to port until this debt is paid in full. Prior to moving, you must notify your housing specialist. The housing specialist will guide you with the process, which includes giving proper written notice to vacate and putting your port request in writing. You must give us the name, address, and phone number of the receiving housing authority. Housing Opportunities of Southwest Washington will then gather all the necessary paperwork and forward to the housing authority of your choice. It will then be your responsibility to contact the receiving housing authority to schedule an intake appointment. At this appointment, you will be issued a new voucher and limits in which you can search for a new home in their jurisdiction. When you port to another housing authority, you will fall under their umbrella of policies and procedures. The subsidy and payment standards may be different. In addition, they may rescreen all adults in the household. It is your responsibility to call the receiving housing authority to gather all the necessary information prior to making your decision to move. You should manage the move so that you have enough time to arrive at the receiving public housing authority before the initial public housing authority voucher expires. Otherwise, you may lose your assistance. Once there, should you decide that you do not want to live there, you will need to communicate that information to your assigned housing specialist. They will gather all the paperwork and return to Housing Opportunities of Southwest Washington.
Now that you're almost done with your orientation, you may open your briefing packet now. The first page in your briefing packet is a yellow page titled HOSWA Briefing Packet. Please sign this acknowledgement page. You need to write a key word from this orientation video on that page. The key word for this briefing is HOSWA 2020. Please write this keyword, HOSWA 2020, on the yellow form, then sign it. That's HOSWWA 2020. Once you've signed this page, send it back to us as soon as possible so we know you watched the full orientation video. After we receive that page back, your housing specialist will call you to go over your rent limits and your voucher. If you have questions about this process, always feel free to call or email us for help.
This pretty much sums up our virtual briefing process. We appreciate your participation. The main thing to remember while you're a program participant is to always report everything in writing as soon as possible. This video will be available to you at any time. Should you have questions or you're not sure about the program or what you may have heard, you can come back and watch this video at any time. We do have a directory available on our website if you need to contact any housing authority personnel. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
The remaining slides show other valuable resources in our area. Take note of these resources. You may find them useful. Thank you for watching this orientation video, and best of luck on your housing search.